And so I walk in, she's right off the bat, just very closed off and angry and mean. And I'm like, I say, I'm going to start an IV. And she like grabs her arm from me and won't let me help her. And I was like, I kind of lost it. I like threw my IV supplies on the table. And I was like, I am just trying to help you. And she like looked at me and like, get out. Like something like, leave me alone. You are not my person to care for me. And I realized like, no, I'm not in the space to care for you. And I wish, and so I remember leaving and they like called the charge nurse in and and nobody like believed this poor patient because I was really known for like offering this compassionate care. But I was done. I was done. And in so many ways, like I wish I could go back and find that patient because she was just scared. She was so scared. And she was a woman of color. And she didn't trust us, right? I'm a white woman.
Greetings and welcome to When the Moment Chooses You. I am your host, Coach Charlene, and I am extremely honored and excited today to have Tara Rynders with me on the podcast. So welcome to the show, Tara.
Thank you so much, Charlene. I'm so happy to be here. Truly, thank you for having me.
Yes. Yeah, I'm so excited. So before we jump into the gold, I'm going to be reading her bio a little bit, and she's going to tell us a little bit about herself. So Tara, and her pronouns are she and her. She's an RN, MFA, BSN, BA. She's a registered nurse, a researcher, a dancer, and an artist. Rynders, did I pronounce your name
yeah,
right?
You did.
Tara.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure. So, Rynders has been a registered nurse for over 20 years and received her master's in fine arts and dance and somatic practices in 2011 from the University of Colorado at Boulder. She also holds a bachelor's degree in nursing, a bachelor's degree in Spanish, and is an advanced certified grief recovery specialist. She is founder and artistic director of the Clinic, an arts and play-based company that provides workshop performances and research around burnout and secondary traumatic stress. She has had the pleasure of dancing with Wild Heart Dance and Third Law Dance Theater. And there's so much more wonderful things here about Tara, but I just want to tell you a little bit about how I met her. First of all, I saw her on a nursing conference. And she came right at the right moment in all of our lives. All of our leaders were in the room together. And her talk just captured our hearts and was like, oh my God, I really needed what you had. And so that's really my initial introduction to you. And then I got a chance to experience your workshop, the clinic. And that was absolutely life-changing. It really was. And so that's how I know. I'm so excited that you're going to be on the program. So tell us a little bit more about Tara.
Thank you, Charlene. Yeah. So I am first and foremost a mother to my incredible twins who are going to be 8 this month. And I'm a dancer. And I've been, like you said, a nurse for over 20 years. And really, I consider dance as something that has saved my life through all the hardship, the struggles, and all the many things, whether it was in my personal life or whether it was through nursing and burnout, movement and somatic practices. And dance has been what heals me daily and what enables me to be able to give and care for myself and others. And
yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, thank you. So I've had the privilege of being able to perform and then offer and create the healing spaces for others to share. I think once we find something that feels healing, we want to shout it, right, and share it. We want, I think healing is for us all, and it's a daily adventure for me in this healing. So.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So I started this podcast because in 2020, we had the incident with unfortunate death of George Floyd. And so I knew that it was time for me to speak up I had never spoke up before. And so this podcast, though, has been a dream, really, because I wanted to unpack stories and allow people to tell stories that inspire you. And I truly believe that there's moments that choose us or call us into them. And so that's really the origination of this particular podcast. So what was your moment, Tara? What was it that made you go on the trajectory that you did? Because we read your bio, and I'm going to place it in the description. But how did you shift from where you were as a nurse to what you're doing now?
Yeah. First, I just want to say, Charlene, thank you. Your voice is so powerful. And thank you for letting the moment choose you and your voice, and that you're now able to create this space for other voices and stories to be heard. It's so powerful and so courageous. So thank you. I can share that there was a moment. I had just had my twins, and they were 6 months old, and I found out I was pregnant again. And that same night, I started having right-sided pain, and I thought, oh no, I think I'm having an ectopic pregnancy. And so the pain just got worse and worse, and I was kind of in denial about it. But I told my husband at night, I was like, it's like excruciating now. I have to go to the hospital. So I drove myself to the hospital because I wasn't going to wake up my sleeping twins to come. And I was all alone. And I had this really surreal experience of being a patient for the first time. I'd worked in the ER as an ER nurse for many, many years. And now to be on the opposite side of that. So to walk in and to fumble at the check-in desk when there's only a security guard to help me, and I'm just in excruciating pain, and they don't understand, and I can't find my ID. And I remember being the nurse being like, nope, you have to check in at that kiosk. No one will see you until you can do that. And then now to be like receiving that was really eye-opening. And then going back and seeing the nurses look at me and wonder, like, is she really in pain? Is she here? Is she seeking? Like, and just like kind of feeling all of it, and probably projecting a lot of my own experience as a nurse on that situation. But then remembering being put in the gurney, having the tech grab my arm without telling me what's happening, and IV putting in. I remember my doctor being really compassionate and like concerned about me. And then ultimately I got admitted. And I was put up on in a tele room, but I was overflow from medical. And so I wasn't hooked up to anything. And they were like not 100% sure it was an ectopic or not, which I knew it was, but I was also holding on to hope that maybe this baby was viable. And so I remember passing out and like pushing the call light as I was passing out, being like, I need to go to surgery. And then my nurse rushing in and, her calling a code yellow, which in the hospital that I worked at is a code they call before a code blue and your heart stops. She took my blood pressure. I had no blood pressure. So they put me in Trendelenburg. Everyone comes rushing into my room, pharmacy. They have blood hanging. They have fluids hanging. And I remember being passed out by hearing everything and feeling really scared. And my nurse grabs my hand and she says, I'm here and you're going to be okay. And I just remember her for remembering like my heart, my soul, because I was so scared and I couldn't speak and I couldn't say what I needed. And she remembered me. And it was that moment that I really realized like, wow, as a nurse, we have so many opportunities to change lives, to show up in some of people's most difficult moments and like hold them. And like, that is just sacred, like God work, right? Universe work. That's calling, right? And I knew that I was burned out at that point. I was tired and I wasn't doing that with my patients. And so I started researching best practices, how our patients can feel seen and heard and cared for. And what I found is that burnout was really stealing the joy and beauty that comes from caring for another human being. And that's when I was like, okay. And I knew dance has always been healing for me. And that's when I was like, maybe there's a relationship here. Maybe there's an opportunity to create spaces of healing through movement and play and art so that we can remember what it feels like to be cared for.
Wow, what a trajectory. That is a powerful story. Thank you so much for sharing that story with us. That's so vulnerable at the same time. And I think that's what really grabbed my heart when you spoke at that particular conference. You were so open and so just so present. And we felt what you were saying. And so that was so powerful. But I so agree with you because I work in the maternal child space. And we saw so much over the last, 2 years, especially during the pandemic, of where families couldn't be families and people having to miss the birth. I mean, just those pivotal moments, and you doing so much because you didn't really have the resources to just physically be present and not really authentically be fully present. So that's extremely powerful, Tara. So tell me how, so that started, and then how long did it take you to actually manifest the clinic?
Yeah, that's such a great question, right? Because so many times we have ideas and thoughts, and I love like the transparency behind sometimes how long it can take, or maybe sometimes quick. But I remember writing in my journal, Tara, you must talk to your chief nursing officer. This is important. These ideas you're having must happen. It must come true. And I have a lot of ideas. I'm kind of a visionary and I love to think of things, but I knew this one was really important. And I kind of gave myself little time frames. So I didn't even make an appointment. My chief nursing officer happened to be walking through the hall or through our unit at the time. And I was like, all right, this is it. And so I just go up to her and I tell her, I was like, I've had this experience and I really need to spend time and tell you about it and come up with a way to share this with our leaders. And she said, yes, you can. Tell me more. And she was so open. And I was like, oh my goodness. And so I was able to do like this little presentation. It was like an hour where I used the arts and play to share a little bit of what it felt like to be a patient. Because that was also really powerful, right? To be in the shoes of our patient.
Yes. Absolutely.
And I met a lot of resistance in that moment because this was in 2017. So this was all pre-COVID. And there was, people were open to a degree, but they were still in the mindset of we're good. Like we got this. We can just, bounce back a little harder. I've got this. I'm strong. I can take on the world was still kind of the mentality overall. And so that's when I realized I needed to raise more awareness, and the arts have always been the way to do them. So I co-created with Jad Tink and Leah Bonfilio and Edith Weiss, an immersive theater performance. So a story told from the perspective of the nurse and the patient's family. So the patient was in a coma, but and so two perspectives at that time that really weren't being heard from. The nurse's voice wasn't very amplified. And so you got to really see what it was like to take care of a patient day in and day out, to see their family struggles. And we all have been in that experience, so we could all relate. And that was really successful in opening the eyes that there was something that needed to happen. And so so I initially talked to my chief nursing officer probably early 2016. This performance happened in 2017. And then after the response was so accepting, I knew we needed to then offer resources. And that's where the workshop came. And so that happened in 2017 as well. So about a year, I think, from like my ectopic pregnancy into creating something, which involved like writing grants for it and getting our CEO on board to let us do a performance in the hospital where people bought tickets and traveled all the way around. Wow. So yeah, overall, I think it happened pretty quickly considering everything, but also realizing that, things take time.
Wow, that's pretty powerful. So you had mentioned that you were kind of burnt out already right around that time. So what was it, do you think, that I'm always fascinated when, like, I've interviewed a lot of nurses that have started businesses, and it's been so inspiring to hear their journey and how they did that. But what was it that you think that caused your burnout? Like, what was it in particular? Was it any one thing, or was it a lot of things?
I think it's a lot of things, but I remember I remember being like, I am burned out. I remember voicing it and vocalizing and naming it, which felt really important after I took care of a patient who ironically was having an ectopic pregnancy. And I had worked 2 12s in a row in the ER. I was exhausted. We were on diverts. Our halls were all full. This doctor sent over her patient from the office who was having ectopic pregnancy. She was really angry. And so I walk in, she's right off the bat, just very closed off and angry and mean. And I'm like, I say, I'm going to start an IV. And she like grabs her arm from me and won't let me help her. And I was like, I kind of lost it. I like threw my IV supplies on the table and I was like, I am just trying to help you. And she like looked at me
Yes.
and like, get out. like something like, leave me alone. You are not my person to care for me. And I realized like, no, I'm not in the space to care for you. And I wish, and so I remember leaving and they like called the charge nurse in and and nobody like believed this poor patient because I was really known for like offering this compassionate care. But I was done. I was done. And in so many ways, like I wish I could go back and find that patient because she was just scared. She was so scared. And she was a woman of color. And she didn't trust us, right? I'm a white woman.
Right.
There's so many things that I can see now that I didn't see before. And I could have come in and, this is what nurses do, right? We think about how we could do it better. And that's the beauty of being a nurse. But I wish I would have come in, sat with her and listened and held her pain and her suffering first instead of just like barged in, do my thing. I'm this person who's going to save you today. I got shit to do, excuse my language, and then walk out. And so it was, and then later on being the patient with the ectopic pregnancy myself and being in her situation. So it's like, I don't know where she is in this world, but I just send her lots of love. And,
that's wonderful.
Yeah. So that was the moment I knew like, I need to take a minute. I need to figure this out. I can't keep doing this. My patients deserve better and I deserve better. Like, there's a sense of like, it's not okay to be treated poorly. And so I've learned how to de-escalate by acknowledging, I see your pain and I see your how you're feeling right now. And I'm feeling like you're taking it out on me, like naming it with them and letting them know that I care, but I'm also human and I want to be in this together with them, that I'm on their side and doing it in a loving way. So I've created language now around that. So when that happened, I'm able to de-escalate it. But that was the moment.
Wow, what a powerful moment. I'm thinking about what you said and you said a lot, but what I think is so beautiful though, Tara, is that you recognized your burnout. Mm-hmm. You didn't keep grinding. You didn't keep pushing through and treating other patients the same way. You recognized it and then you were able to do something about it. But there's so many nurses that because I got to work, I got to provide, I have to do this, they keep doing it at the risk of both themselves and the patient. So what would you tell a nurse that is at that point of burnout, but they keep pushing through?
I think it's time for nurses to start telling the truth about what we're feeling, to name things and to be honest. And I don't know if we even give ourselves a moment to really know what we're feeling. I think nurses in general are very honest and will say things as they are when they see it. And we'll call things out with our patients, with our families. But I wonder what it looks like to turn that inward, to put our ears to our own hearts, to our own heartbeat. And what is our heart telling us? And then to name those feelings. I feel sad. I feel scared. I feel exhausted beyond repair. I feel like I can't take on one more thing and I won't. And so then and also just softening. I think before we can do anything, we have to soften, to listen. And then I talk about courageous care in the sense of when we soften and receive. And so there's this part of the story where when that nurse grabbed my hand when I was passed out, my first reaction to her was like, why are you touching me? What do you do? Like, I'm good. I got this, I'm strong.
Right.
And then I was like, Tara, you have 6-month-old twins. You may never see again. You could be dying. Let this woman care for you right now. Like, let her care for you. And so I softened and let her hold my hand. And that's why it was so life-changing, because I was able to receive it, right? Because so many times people care for us, but it doesn't land. We don't receive it for whatever reason. And so that's like the part of the story I don't always tell, but I think maybe one of the most important parts is that we have to soften and to receive. And name our feelings, tell the truth. We just got to get honest with our minds and our bodies. Lastly, I'll just say that sometimes our bodies will know. our bodies they always know. Like you can check in. Maybe you don't have the language. Maybe in your mind, you can't put together what you're really feeling, but be like, well, where do I feel this? I feel it in my soles of my feet because they are so exhausted. I feel this burning in my heart. My stomach hurts, whatever it is. Like that's the body trying to tell the truth as well.
Yes. Wow, so powerful. I didn't know we was going to dive this deep, but I am loving every second of this. It also reminded me, Tara, of a situation that I was faced with as a new graduate. And, I'm cleaning up. And, of course, I was kind of like the only Black nurse there. And so this patient, I was cleaning her up because I was so excited because I love doing hair. So I wanted to make her pretty for her family. And so, I'm dolling her up. She's a Caucasian older woman. And so I'm getting it really cute. And then I was washing up and then she grabbed my wrist like this, like her nails were about this long. And I felt like I got stabbed, like literally. And she said, "Get your hands off of me." And she used the N-word. And I was so traumatized at the moment. But I had this little angel up on my shoulder, and then there was something negative over here. My thought was like, put that pillow over her head, because that was the anger part talking. But then I heard my mom say, I heard a voice say, "This could be your mom." And it just totally made me soften, made me open up, and made me love beyond that moment, which I didn't even know I had the capacity to do, but I did. I loved beyond. I continued curling her hair and fixing her up, making her beautiful for her family. But that moment, although it was so, in a sense, negative, was so powerful for me to look at humanity in the face and love beyond the stuff. Wow. And so that your story like reminded me of that. And I always wondered, like, did she feel the love that I gave her in spite of what she said, in spite of who she was? Was she able to feel that from me when I walked authentically in that love place, which I literally did not know I had that capacity, but my mom obviously did a great job teaching us how to love. And so so when we're in those moments, like the ones like this one, the one that you described, is so powerful. I think about, wow, what if that was my mom? Would I be thinking the same way? It really makes you kind of like jolt yourself and say, okay, I know this was hard. I know this was a hard hit. I know probably you do want to put a pillow over her head, but what's the right thing to do? Because she's suffering. She's sick. She needs something more than what she actually has. And I was able to give that to her. So that's why I absolutely love nursing. And I think that's why I'm where I am, with just really trying to shine the light and the love wherever I go. And so your story just really brought out a lot of me, and just thinking about certain things in those lines. So thank you for that.
Thank you for sharing that powerful story, and that you just had this capacity to go beyond that extremely racist comment that had so much history and like so much that I could imagine coming up for you. And, I just want to say, like, racism at the bedside is what I call it, has got to be eliminated. And I know we're getting there, but we have to, as a white woman, I have to do more, because this situation is like, it's heartbreaking. And yet I hear you turning this into an opportunity of growth for your heart, and to allow your mother's words coming in, be like, I know you are Charlene, and you are a lover, and you are a giver, in spite of all of this happening in front of you. You're such an incredible woman. And so it's
Oh, thank you. Thank you. But I think those moments of those are jarring moments in the profession, like the one that you experienced being a patient. They're jarring moments, and they take us to these other moments, these other destiny moments. So because of all of that happened, and several other things happened as I was going through my nursing journey, I just, that moment that chose me in 2020 to speak up, I already had the experience to be able to speak up and say, hey, this does happen. Let me tell you what happened to me. And yeah, exactly. It was like, and it was such a powerful moment that when everything happened, I was ready for the moment. I didn't have to get ready for the moment. I was ready because I just finally found my
Mm-hmm.
voice and felt safe enough to release it. And so that's what's been driving me, Tara. So the heart things are driving me is we don't really have like a lot of time. I hit that point of burnout again, Tara, and then I saw this quote and it says that you don't die when your heart stops beating. You die when your heartbeats have no meaning. And so I recognized that as a nurse, I was starting to lose those meaningful heartbeats and just doing tasks. And so I did, like you said, I actually had to get away for a moment and then open up with myself and acknowledge, like, Charlene, look, you're burnt out again. What are you going to do about it? You can't keep grinding. You have to pause. And that's what I did. And I'm so glad that I did because I got so much joy and so much meaning when I came back, started a podcast. I started doing things in my heart to do. And so now things are like going really amazing because I'm feeding my soul, that thing that I was created to do. I'm able to touch and hear these powerful stories like this that are life-changing for when people hear them. Yeah. So yeah, thank you for creating this so that we can talk in this type of way. So thank you for that.
Absolutely. And it's life-changing, your voice, your power. Yeah, 100%. I'm so grateful to hear that you've stepped into, and that you said you had to take this pause, right? That then the pause may look different for all of us, but there is a pause, right? That has to happen. Yeah.
Okay, so let's get back on to the clinic. Tell me about the clinic. I want people to know from you, what is the clinic?
So I've been a dancer for 20 years. I mean, I've been a nurse for 20 years and I've always been like a dancer, but it was in 2006 after my mother passed away that I couldn't bounce back. I always thought I was very resilient, and my foundation was gone. I hear you talk about the way your mother whispered to you. It's like, and how you love so great because your mother loves you so great is what I heard. And I that same way, my mother was my everything. She loved us so unconditionally and fully. And she died at 49 and it was just too soon. And I didn't know how to bounce back. And so I decided to run to what brought me joy, which had always cared for me, which was dance. And so I did the pause and cut down in my hours in nursing and went back to grad school for dance and performance and somatic practices. And I did that for 3 years. And so I grieved the loss of my mother and I experienced the joy of what I love together. And I think that really our joy and our grief are more interwoven than we may like to think of them. And so it was during that time that I reconnected to my body. And so that was for me. And so I danced, I performed, and then it was after the ectopic pregnancy that I realized, these worlds can coexist in a really beautiful way. Yes. And that's how the clinic was born, as I shared earlier. And so we use it, and then what's lovely is that I was able to meet our collaborator, who Dr. Claire Hamor, who led the workshop in Roseville alongside our other. So Claire has his PhD in applied theater and is really like a master of play and what it means to have a playful attitude in order to connect to ourselves and each other and create trust. And then our incredible poet laureate, Ashley Cornelius, who is also a licensed professional counselor. And she brings a wealth of knowledge and humanity and artistry. And then Maria Shrimp, who is the director of the Restore program, which is the wellness program at Denver Health. And she's just doing incredible work, creating debriefs, 24-hour peer response for our teams. And so this group is really, and then we have our incredible videographer, Drummond West, and now we've added Stevie Selby as our photographer. So we came as a team together, and we have this structure of different things from my background from dance. We have play from Claire. We have poetry from Ashley. We have music from Maria. And together we were able to solidify this, this workshop that you participated in. There's been other iterations with just myself and Claire beforehand. But I feel like this workshop is really powerful because it's not one that I could just do on my own. Or right. Ashley could do. It's the collaboration of all these humans coming together, pouring their hearts out to create something really powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. It's absolutely transformative. So I just really kudos to you guys, for you for having the vision, and just to your team, although you weren't like there, you were there, your
Yeah.
spirit was there because they really, really just, I mean, it was amazing. I'm going to forever be like totally telling everybody to go to the clinic because it's so
Yeah.
needed today. And I think what I love about what you're doing is this is the moment that we're in that we have to care for the caregiver.
Mm-hmm.
We have to start doing more of that. And so when I saw it, I was like, that is it. This is what we need to do. We understand about all the other stuff that we've learned, but until we get our healthcare workers, our nurses, or all of the support team in a better place, we're going to still continue to have the different outcomes that we're having.
Mm-hmm.
So I honor you for doing that. So I know that our time is running out, but if Tara, you can just give us at least 3 wisdom gems of how actually you have so much in you that I don't even know how to structure that question. So 3 pearls of wisdom from Tara, whatever they may be, I'm leaving it totally open to you.
Well, I think
just 3 wisdom
my
gems.
first wisdom gem is I hope that we can share that clip, Charlene, of you sharing about your experience, because I think that's the wisdom, is watching you have such an open heart. And so that would be like opening our hearts to these experiences and like diving in, like during the play, watching you play, Charlene, watching your heart and your ease into laughter and ease into joy. And I think that's the gem. Like, our joy is revolutionary. And I think we see a lot of really hard things, right? But to watch you as a nurse who has this rich history, so rich, right? So much knowledge and wisdom, to watch it just like come out through every pore of your body and to hear your words. So I think my first thing I would say is be like Charlene. Like, maybe we need like a hashtag.
That is hilarious. I gotta be honest. Let me be like totally transparent. So, as a leader, I had my laptop with me and I'm sitting there like, this is at the very beginning. Click, 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 click. And then it just like dawned on me like, Charlene, stop it. Put the computer up. Put it away and be all the way present, like fully present regardless. Because, sometimes as a leader, you're, oh my gosh, I got to do this. I got to do that. I got to do this. And you don't know how to just, let me just be. And so I just breathed, and then I was like, just flow with all of this goodness that we're getting ready to experience, starting with the hand washing and beyond. So I did. I fully went all the way in and felt so amazing, like a child. Yeah. I was like, oh my God, I got my joy back. And that was the goal, to have joy. And one of the participants, they said, you know what? This is kind of like incredible, unbelievable that we're here for 8 hours to have joy. It's like, yeah, it's amazing. Mm-hmm. So just absolutely. So, and that was fun. I had no idea that he captured that much footage of me.
You were in it. I love that, right? Like, as leaders, we have this thought expectation, like we need to journal that, we need to catch up on our work, these different things. But what our teammates, what our teams need is they need our presence. They need our joy. Those 2 things. Yes. And I get it, because I also work in the hospital as a leader, and I get all the other things that are pulling on us. But if we can focus on those 2 things, like, that's the biggest gift you can give anyone, is your presence, to be fully present. That was the gift you gave us in the workshop, is to have that moment of, I'm going to set this aside now, and I'm going to choose to be fully present. And I guarantee everybody has benefited around you because you chose yourself 100%.
Yes. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the other thing is that I'll leave is this courageous care framework where we've developed around this idea of when we soften and receive, we experience, when we soften and receive together, collectively, we experience healing and joy. And so softening, finding those safe spaces, those courageous spaces where you can soften and tell the truth about your sadness, your anger. It may not even be with your partner. Sometimes not even like with your therapist, but finding other nurses to share, because we get it. is like a whole nother level of being able to soften together. And then where can you receive care? Like I said, there's so many times I think people try to care for me and I'm like, I'm good. But that moment we choose to receive is like really transformational, and to do it collectively together. And I think there's a togetherness like with ourselves, like a solitude, but not isolation. Like we need to come together right now. We need to be in community. And that's where healing happens. And that's where the joy springs from. That's like all that, like the nutrients, the soil that we need in order to have that joy together.
Wow. Well, Tara, I hate to stop talking because you're so amazing, but I know we have to go. But thank you so much for being on the podcast. How can people get in touch with you?
They can email me at theclinicperformance@gmail.com, or our website. There's a contact us at www.theclinicperformance.com. Those are two ways. And Charlene, I hope that we can meet each other in person one day. I can just have a big.
Yes, absolutely. I can just get a hug because, like, we're sisters. Look, like she wore green and I wore green. Like, come on. No, I really appreciate it. I do plan on meeting you in person. I definitely will. And I do want to do another clinic. It's amazing. And actually, you're a total inspiration to me because I feel like I have this gift on the inside of me that I have to figure out how to expand and use it for the greater good. And so I'm kind of in that journey right now. So you really inspire me, and I appreciate all the work that you're doing because it speaks to my heart. It resonates. It's like, oh my God, this is it. This is what I've been trying to see because, you can't really do what you can't see. And so when I saw it, I was like, this is it. This is what we need. Like I know in my total being that this is what we need for our healthcare workers, for them to be whole again, for them to be able to care, to touch a life, to move beyond mean words, negativity, and say, you know what, I'm going to love you in spite of. I want to care for you in spite of. I'm going to comb your hair in spite of. I'm going to sit here with you in spite of. Like, wouldn't that be like powerful if we got to a place to be able to do that? And I just think your workshop, it helps you to get there.
And Charlene, that's what you did in your story. I'm going to care for you in spite of. Like, you're already there. So I also hear you say you want to do these things. And I also just want to speak the truth of that you are, and that each step, like, it's going to grow and it's going to continue because you're already choosing. And maybe that's the other gem of wisdom that you're leaving us with, is like, there's the desire to do the thing, right? Like live fully and authentically and bring the inside out is what I'm hearing. Right. You're already doing that. And so it's just going to continue to grow because there's no other way that it can happen when we're living that way. So thank you. That's a reminder to me that that's the way. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. I will have Tara's information in the description, and thank you for listening.
Yes. And if you're in the Santa Clara area and work for Kaiser, please come to our workshops. They're in September 10th and 11th, I believe, too. So